Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another analytics talk. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And as far as what makes this talk different as usual, we're a group dedicated to learning all about analytics in Tableau. As you know, we have this virtually basically almost every month. And the idea is to come together, talk about all Tableau's analytical functions, whether in desktop, web edit, or apps data. And be sure to subscribe at this link over here, or you can scan the QR code and you can visit our forums page, essentially just to stay in touch with everything we got going on. And you can get all the updates for upcoming events. I'm going to do a quick introduction of the leaders. We have Annabelle Rincon, Prasan Prem, and myself. As far as Annabelle, she's a visual analytics and enablement lead. As you can see here, she's a Tableau visionary, Tableau ambassador, and a Tableau certified professional. As far as her passions are Tableau, her dog, and chocolate. Location wise, she's in Zurich, which is in Switzerland. And apart from this current tug which you're in, Annabelle co-leads the Data Plus Women in Zurich. And so you can definitely scan the QR code so you can also stay connected with what they got going on over there. As far as Prasan goes, he is also a visionary and a Tableau ambassador. And he fell in love with Tableau and the data fam. And he's basically learned by the way of giving back. He also went ahead to found a Tableau Buddy and Tableau Viz Diner, which are essentially, resources which I highly recommend. It's good to, get you kind of ingratiated with Tableau. You get to learn all the basics, learn about the career stuff, and basically just learning Tableau the right way. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to check those out. As far as his journey, he started using Tableau in 2020, currently works as a senior BI engineer at Emirates. I believe he moved to Dubai recently. He's got a strong sense of community building and mentoring. And so far, he's mentored over 500 data professionals around the world, which is, I think, amazing. Fun fact about Prasan, he loves cats, food, anime, and according to him, he can die for these three things. So it's very interesting. As far as myself, data viz manager at Post Media. I do freelance via Visite Analytics, just like a side thing there. I started using Tableau in 2020 also. So now I'm about 4 years in, and I just really enjoy Tableau, is what I'll say, because it allows me to, get in touch with my creative side. I used to do art before. I don't do it anymore, but Tableau helps me tap in. I believe in harnessing data and design to make users more receptive to visual insights. You can check out my profile. You can see all the stuff there. And in case I forget, I'm also a visionary and an ambassador. And fun fact, I just really like to experiment with visualization and design. So I don't consider myself as having a style. But one thing too is like, Tableau is really not just a work thing for me. It's like a thing that keeps me, really relaxed. And so if I haven't touched Tableau for a while, I get weird. So even if you see me not posting, I'm definitely always playing with Tableau just because of what it does for me, like internally. So a few ground rules today. Please interact, say hello, let us know what you're thinking, what you're feeling. Do that via the chat session, say what's up to you people. However, if you do have questions, please use the Q&A session. The chat moves really quickly. And so, in order to make sure that your concerns and your questions are not missed, please use the Q&A session. Of course, the only rule that we have here is please enjoy yourself. Also, just for, disclosure purposes, the session is recorded. And once it's done, you're going to get another notification letting you know that it's going to be available on the YouTube channel. And so look out for that. Also, we've got a Twitter or X at Analytics TUG. So please go ahead, show some love, and also that's another way to stay connected to what we got going on. As far as today's agenda goes, just finished off the welcome, and we're going to have three amazing speakers today. First, we're going to have Abdelaziz talking about the intro to the order of operations, highly necessary in terms of getting the Tableau foundations right. And then we're going to move on to Alan Hillery, who has spent a bunch of time, researching and studying the work of DuBois. And he's going to give us a talk called Insight and Impact, W.E.B. DuBois, Pioneering Data Visualizations. And then finally, last but not least, we're going to have Bois McCready, who is going to talk about graphs and visualizing personal data, where he's going to give us a bit of a personal experience that he's got and how that has enabled him to learn a few things in terms of visualizing sensitive and personal stuff. After that, of course, we're going to have like an official Q&A, but throughout the speaking, if you do have questions and thoughts, don't hesitate to use the Q&A to make sure that those get out there for the speakers. And now I'm going to pass it over to Prasan to start bringing in our awesome speakers for today. Over to you, Prasan.
Thank you, Chimdi. Thank you so much for taking us through the introduction, as well as for taking us through what we do at Analytics TUG. Okay, so first we have Abdelaziz Mahjoub, and you can also reach out to him. Yes, he's saying waving you hi, and you can reach out to him on X at Abdelaziz Mahjoub 4. You can just check out that. About him, he's a lead analytics consultant at Bainix and has over 7 years of experience. He's also a Cairo TUG leader, if you haven't checked out yet. He's also doing so many events. That's truly amazing. He's a 2-time Tableau and has trained and mentored.
Oh. We lost you for 1 or 2 seconds. Sorry.
I think my internet is breaking on and off. Okay, coming back to Abdelaziz, Tableau journey. He's a Tableau instructor and has trained and mentored 1,000+ data analysts to learn Tableau properly. I think he has lost the count, so he's just mentioning 1,000. Throughout his career, he has gained expertise using Tableau and essential design principles and techniques to create compelling and impactful visualizations. And you can check out his Tableau public profile. It's great. He has put up so many even business dashboards as well as storytelling visualizations. And fun fact about him is he accidentally discovered Tableau. Now that's interesting, and never looked back since. And you can find more insights in his talk. So I'll hand over to Abdelaziz, who is going to talk about introduction to order of operations. Abdelaziz, take it over.
Thank you, Tim D. Thank you, Prasan. Let me try to share my screen. I think that I need to stop my your screen first. And that's my niece trying to say hello. She's out now. Thank you, everyone, for attending the session and for joining your favorite Tableau user group, analytics user group. This is Abdelaziz, and I'm going to talk about order of operation. And I will tell you through the session or my talk why it's very important. My name is Abdelaziz Mahjoub. I'm a data analytics lead consultant based in Cairo, Egypt. I'm 2-time Tableau public ambassador. I'm also Tableau public featured author. One of my visualization got Viz of the Day. I'm leading a local Tableau user group, which is Cairo Tableau user group. I'm also Tableau instructor. What I do and how can I do and help you? I build a world-class business dashboard and also do training. So if you need any of these, you can reach out to me anytime. The butterfly effect, and this is where I will be talking about the how I accidentally found Tableau, and I will tell you a little bit about my journey. And let's start back in 2017. I just completed my bachelor degree in communication engineering, and I was serving at the military service, and it was already about the end of it. And I had to go to one of my friends' wedding, but I couldn't do this because I already serving in the military service. So I had to make an excuse, which was to make a surgery in my left knee, so I can be admitted to the hospital, make a small surgery, so I can be at home and be able to go to my friend's wedding that night. During this night, I already, one of my friend's friends, a mutual friend of my friend, she introduced me to one of her roommates. She was telling me that she's working as a BI consultant, or back then she was senior BI consultant. And to be honest, I didn't know what even BI means, but I was curious enough to learn more about it. And this is where I started to dig more about it. And I asked her to ask her friend what she's working on and if she can tell me more about it. She replied back later on that her roommate is working with another BI tool, which wasn't Tableau back then, SQL and databases. And then I started later that night, that year, to learn about data visualization. And to be honest, I couldn't understand anything back then, because somehow I started the pyramid upside down, and I had to pause and get back to the fundamentals. So I started with database, SQL, and data warehouse ETLs. And then this is where I already introduced to Tableau, and I loved it since then. Yes, this is really, and since that I was able to find my passion when it comes to work, and already enjoying what I'm doing. So this is the brief journey about me, and until now, so since 2017, I'm here joining you now as a two-time Tableau ambassador, and I'm also has more than 7 years of experience. And Tableau, you can consider it Tableau expert in this matter. To our session. Order of operation. I will start with a demo, and I will tell you why I'm starting with the demo. A classic question. I want to this view. Let me introduce you first to the data. The data is the sample superstore that everyone played and already know about it. Transactional data for different products being sold in the United States. And we have information about the customer, about the products, etc. And I'm interested to see top 10 customer based on the segmentation. So I will start first with my customer name, and I will drag it to the filters. From here, I will select top. I will change the radio button from none to by field, and it's already set up for me. It's top 10, and the aggregation set for matched with the bill or the field that I'm already using, which is sales, and the submission as well. Once I click OK, you can see that I have already, as you can see here, 10 marks. What I need to do next is to add my segment to the filter. Let's see if I selected everything. Now, what I need to do is showing my filter, and I will change the option to be a single value list, and I will click, for example, as you can see, it's consumer. If it's all, it should be 10, but if I switch it to consumer, corporate, home office, it should be 10, but ironically, I don't get these numbers. So if I choose consumer, it's only 7 marks or 7 customers. Corporate, I have only 1, and home office, I'm only left with 2. And this is where we are going to deep dive into order of operation. Our agenda of today, we are going to talk about different types of order operation, which is going to be elaborating filter types. I will be talking about granularity and aggregation, brief introduction to LOD fundamentals, and use cases while we are explaining every concept of these. What you are going to expect to learn from my talk, I hope that you can, by the end of this session, be able to identify the order of operation, how you can recognize it, and to choose the right filter in your operation so that you can address any unexpected result during your development. And let's start with some basics, back to basics. If I would like to ask all the attendees, what is what is this? Can you guess the result of this equation? 4 times 5 plus 10 divided by 2 minus 3. You can start type in the chat either A, B, C, or tell me the order of operation. Who goes with A? And who goes with B or C? Okay. Let's start first with the order of operation in mathematics. We start with parentheses, exponent, division, multiplication, addition, and subtract. With this order into consideration, I can tackle this down, and this should be 22, not 27, sorry. It should be 22. Okay, let's talk about order of operation. As you can see, these are the order of operation that you can understand about it, and you already may be familiar of a lot of them, but we are going to talk about every one separately. We have extract filter, data source filter. Then we have context filter, dimension filter, measure filter, and table calculation filters. And then we have sets, condition filter, top N, and fixed LOD. And this comes between context and dimension. And we have include and exclude LOD alongside with data blending. And this comes right after dimension and before measures. And we have forecast table calculation, again goes after measure and before table calculation. And lastly, we have trend lines and reference lines. We are going to focus first on the first two, which is extract filter and data source filter, because I can see that it's somehow different than everything else. And this is where you can see that I'm already separating only these two from everything else. Okay, so let's start with the demo. How I can do either an extract filter or data source filter. What I do love about Tableau, that everything that I can do, there are multiple ways to do it. For extract, for example, I will start with extract filter. I can do this either from here directly. So I can, from the data pane, this is the sample superstore, my data source, right click. And you can see that there is an option called extract data. Once I click here, you will have this option, and you can see that there is a filter already applied. I can edit it and I can remove it, and I can apply another filter if I want, maybe another filter to the year, for example. I have order date. Maybe I will leave everything except for 2021. So this is where I have applied filter, but this filter is already applying on the extract label. When I click save, you can see that my one cylinder now becomes 2 cylinders, and the data has been reduced. As you can see that I don't have 2021 anymore. I will undo this action. And let's remove everything in the filter here and keep it clear. So this is for the extract filter. For the data source filter, I will click on the data source from here, and this is going to leave me with the data source home page. And you can see that I have multiple options here. The first one is the connection, either live or extract. Live is where I'm connecting directly to my data source. Extract, where I take a snapshot of the data, and this snapshot is going to be high profile, which is super fast because the data is already becoming part of my workbook, and the performance is greater and much better than if I'm connected live to a very long or a huge volume of data. From here, what I want to explain is the data source filter. This is where you apply data source filters. We have filter, and you can see that it's already 0, and I can click here to add a filter. Let's, for example, click filter on category. I'm interested in office supplies and technology, and I click OK. So now you can see that I have applied from this filter. This is a data source filter. Let me again remove it. If I clicked on extract here, you can see that you can edit it from here as well. And this is the second way where I can apply my extract filter. And you can see that the same dialog box has been open to me to edit it and save it. So these are for both data source and extract filter. Now we're going to talk about, we have context filter, we have dimension filter, measure filter, and table calculation. I will leave context filter for the last. I will be talking about dimension filter, measure filter, and table calculation. And I will tell you why I left the context filter to the end of the order of operation. Let's again go back to Tableau, and let's apply or start with the dimension filter. As you can see that this chart or this view is showing me what? As you can see that I have sales and profit, and I'm adding the product name to the details, and I'm adding again some of to the color. So this is showing me the profitable and non-profitable products. What I'm interested to see is that, as you can see, that I want to filter out any product that have profit less than 1,000 based on a conditional filter. Okay, let's do this. So I will be, as long as this is a dimension filter, so this is going to be adding my product name to the filter. And from here, I want to be based on condition, and this condition is going to be my sales is greater than, my profit is greater than or equal, for example, 1,000. So as you can see, this is where I applied the dimension filter, and this dimensional filter happened to be a conditional filter. So this is where I believe that everyone already familiar with this shelf, filter shelf. So every time you are being asked to do a filtration, this is your go-to shelf. And I understand that we are already, all of us are familiar with the shelf, but there is, even in this shelf, there is an order happening in there. The first one coming, as we know, is the dimension filter, which is the one that I just applied. The second one is the measure filter. Okay, this is states, different states in the United States with the sales, and I'm already sorting the bar chart, and I'm interested to see sales greater than 20,000 in sales. So in this case, I'm going to add my sales to the filter, and Tableau in this situation asking me, how do you want to aggregate my field, which is the sales. All values, summation, average, median, or any other different aggregation. In this case, it should be matching the view, and I will tell you why. And I will take another example where I will be applying all values to my view as well. Once I click summation and I'll click next, you can see that this is the maximum value, and you can expect it's already matching with this one. And I'm already expecting that this is the lowest value or the minimum value, and it's matching with the lowest or the minimum state, which is already, you can't see because of the scrolling. And I want to filter down my data only to show states above 20K in sales. I can do 20K like this. And if you don't know about this step, you can just write down K and it's going to be 1,000. Click OK. And you can see that I already filtered out my data correctly. Let's take an example where I will be adding the same measure to my filter. And I'm again want to filter down my states based on sales greater than 20,000. But this time I will be choosing all values. Can you expect what is going to happen in this case? You can write down your expectation, or what do you think what will happen next? Let me click on next. Somehow something, I'm not sure why this number are retrieved. So I have only 22,000, and I'm expecting the maximum number should be more than 457,000, and this is the lowest number. But anyways, let's again apply the same value that we have applied before, 20,000, and click OK. Interesting. I'm only left with one value, Florida, and I'm not sure why this is happening. And to understand what's happening behind the scene, I need to add the order ID. Why I'm adding the order ID? Because this is the lowest granular level, and we are going to talk in a little bit about the granular level in my data. This is why I need to understand very well the data that I'm using. So it happened that there is only one value or one order ID that exceeded this amount, which is 20,000, and this is why it happened to be Florida, and this is how Tableau computed my result. Because actually when I choose all values, this is where Tableau is going to filter based on the lowest level in the data, not an aggregate data, the raw data itself. So this is where the difference between applying an aggregation to a measure or not when it comes to filter. Then we are going to talk about table calculation filter. I will be doing a different approach to filter the states based on ranking. What I'll be doing is controlling and selecting the value of the or the bill. Here, from here, I can apply a quick table calculation, and you can see that there is different table calculation. This one I'm going to choose rank, and you can see that it's already applied ranking from the first based on the sales to the last value that I got in my states. This one I'm going to add it to the filter, and you can see that I have the same values 1 to 59, and I'm only interested to see the first 10, so it's going to be filtered down on the range from 1 to 10. And this is where I have just applied a table calculation filter. So I need to understand, and you can see that if you don't know, this triangle means that I'm applying a table calculation to my field or my bill, and this is where you understand this is a table calculation field, not a measure field that have been applied to the filter. So these are the different type of filtration that you can apply to your go-to filter shelf when you are using Tableau. And now we're going to talk about context filter. And why I left context filter to the end of the order of operation, because actually it's not a physical filter, it's somehow logical and independent filter. It, as I have mentioned before, it comes right after the dimension filter, and more importantly, that it comes before as well sets conditional filter, top N, and fixed LODs. Let's do another demo, and I'm sorry because of the back and forth between the presentation and my Tableau desktop. So the context filter here. Let's try to build the first example that we have illustrated, where we have applied top 10 customers alongside with segmentation, and it was something wrong going on. So let's do this again. I will be adding my customer name to the filters. I will already select all from the list, and it's already all the values are selected from here from the top. Changing the radio button from none to by field, that's already that is set up for me. Top 10 by sales and aggregation is set to submission. I'll click OK. From here again, I need to add my segment. I will choose everything for now. Let's show the filter and do the same single value list. All segments, as you can see, I have 10 marks. Okay, let's see if I already clicked on consumer. Again, the same problem. This is the very first problem that we were trying to tackle from the very first example. From here, we are going to learn about context and how I can apply a context to a filter. This is where I can right-click on the filter and add to context. And you can see two things just happened. The first thing that I can see that instead of 7 marks, now I have 10 marks. And the second one is the bill becomes in gray, which means this bill has been applied to be a context filter. So now if it's all values on the segment field or any of the values, it's always going to retrieve 10 values based on the filtration in the second field on the filter. What's happening behind the scene? Let's understand this for a little. In the first example, I applied both the top-end customer filter and the segment filter together to my dataset. So Tableau, what Tableau did in the background, that computed both filters in an AND operation. So I need to have the top-end customers and the segment that I'm going to filter. It happened to be, for some reason, in one of the segmentation that has 7 out of the 10 customers, and the other has 2, and the last one has 1. But when I applied the context filter to the segment, somehow I differentiated between the operation. So where I applied the context filter, the operation become first, then the result of this context filter is going to be passed to the next level in the order of operation. It happened to be, in this case, top N in the operation. And you always can refer back to this diagram view. So here is the context filter, and then either dimension filter or even the top N. This is where the top N comes in place. You need to understand where your action are coming in place when it comes to this order of operation. And this is so far the order of operation, and I hope it's somehow clear. Let's talk about a very important I wouldn't say topic, but important thing to highlight in my topic. First, the level of granularity. This one, understanding the level of granularity. You can see that these two axes, the one is granular level and the other one is aggregation, and both are in different or opposite level. If I am increasing my granularity, the aggregation is going to be less, and vice versa. If I'm increasing the aggregation, the granularity is going to be less. You can think of this dashed line as the Viz level of the detail, or the combination of the fields that I'm already adding to my view. The aggregation or aggregated measures, and alongside with the dimension itself. The Viz level of detail, this is where the intersection between the two is where the Viz level of detail is determined. What if I want, for example, increase the granular level or decrease the granular level without breaking the Viz level of detail? So this is where the LOD comes in place. And talking about LODs, this is for your reference a bit about the formula itself. As you can see that it starts with curly bracket, keyword, dimension declaration, column, and aggregated expression, and again closing the curly bracket. The keyword can be either fixed, include, or exclude, and the dimension, it can be 1 or 2 or 0. I can actually write down as many dimensions as I want here, separated by comma, or I can remove all the dimension entirely, which means I'm going to make the aggregation entirely based on the entire dataset I'm using. And so this is roughly the everything that you need to know about the order of operation, granular level, and LOD. I know that this is like an introduction for all this thing that we have talked about, but I hope it's already enough that you can understand a little bit more about it, and you can build on top of it. Before you go, I need to give you performance best practices, because somehow the thing that I have just talked about become challenging with complex development. And here's a few that you need to take into consideration. When working with calculation, you need to take a few things in mind. The first, if there is something that you need, if there is a field that you need to format, you don't have to format it on the calculated field itself. And by this I mean, for example, and not only to that, when I want to format a date, I don't have to format it exactly in a calculated field, because already Tableau have this option for me. So don't add extra computing capabilities to Tableau because of this. Just to get rid of it, as long as you can use formatting instead. Table calculation sometimes can be slow. And why? Because you can see that it comes at the end of the order of operation. If this is the case, try to push it further up in the order of operation, either by creating a calculated field in my data source, which I mean in Tableau, or push it back entirely to the data source that you are using. Avoid using attribute and use minimum or maximum instead. Why? Because attribute, what it's doing, it's actually taking the value and making a minimum and the maximum of the same value. If both are matched, it's going to retrieve the value. If both values are unmatched, it's going to retrieve asterisks, and try to avoid this because it's actually making extra steps in the process. You don't need this. When working with context filter, try to be very mindful when you are working with context filter, and try to avoid to add every single filter in the filter shelf to be a context filter. Try to avoid the quick filter that you are adding to your dashboard that might not be used by the business user to be a context filter, and I will tell you why. Context filter, when you add any of the dimension to a context filter, what happens is Tableau is actually taking a temporary table or a temporary dataset that being paused and computed to the other order or the rest of the order of operation. When you use another value or change the value of the filter or the context filter to another value in my filter selection, this needs to remove or just get another or a new temp dataset to be computed and passed to the other or the remaining order of operation. So yes, be very mindful and be very careful when working context filter, because sometimes things get messy when working with complex development. Thank you very much for listening to the session. I hope it was informative. And back to you, Chimney.
Thank you so much, Abdelaziz, for taking us through the demo as well as the tips, as well as whole knowledge about how to use context filters and order of operations. I really like that bird that was moving around with the bars. That was really cool, as well as how you switched between the context as well as the demo. That's insane. Thank you so much for taking us through all of this knowledge. It's very helpful.
Thank you.
I'll just check if we have any questions around here. I think it was good, and you also did it in an interactive way. I can see the responses out there. So thank you so much again, Abdelaziz, for taking us through your presentation and the knowledge that you shared with us. Okay, so now we are going to move on to our next speaker. We have Alan Hillery. You can find him X as Al DataViz Guy. I'm a big fan of his work regarding DuBois challenge. You must have already seen so many visualizations coming in through this challenge. Now, talking about him and his journey with Tableau, he's a data storyteller, advisory board member, educator, writer, tech ambassador, and a researcher with over 20 years of experience in corporate America. He's currently working as a program manager of the City University of New York Black Race and Ethnic Studies Initiative. And he's also an adjunct professor at the City College of New York, as well as the McCready Honors College. Alan is a Tableau social ambassador, and as I mentioned, he has been studying and researching the data visualizations of DuBois for the past 6 years and is the co-founder of the social media project, the hashtag DuBois Challenge. Do check it out on the Tableau community page. You can find out it's an amazing challenge, and you can also see so many visualizations on Tableau Public if you search for that keyword. Fun fact about him, he has only visited European countries that begin with the letter I, Iceland, Italy. Now, here's another analysis. He's bringing analysis in his fun fact as well. So that's interesting. And he's a huge fan of Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Marvel franchises. Kind of a certified Subway geek as well. And today he's going to take us through the insight and impact through the W.E.B. DuBois pioneering data visualizations. So I'll hand over to Alan, and we are going to enjoy this presentation.
All right. Thank you so much for inviting me. Yes, I know I need to up my Europe game, so I have to work on that. So, all right, so I'm going to start. Just give me one moment. Okay. All right, can everyone see the screen? All right, so I'm going to get started. So first off, This challenge is a group effort, and some of my team members are out there, so thank you for coming out here. And let me just get this a little better. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute. Let's see, let me share again. Okay, I'll just continue. That's what I was looking for. All right, so thank you. So yes, the Bois Challenge, this is a recap of what took place in 2024. One of our team members, Anthony Starks, he put together a recap for us. I want to walk us through it. So first, just to level set everybody, if you're not familiar with who W.E.B. Du Bois was, he was multi-hyphenated. He was a sociologist, civil rights leader. He was an author. A lot of people know him for his literary works. And one of the reasons that we do this challenge is that most people, maybe now more and more people know about it, but up around 2017, the Library of Congress released Du Bois visualizations. So he and a team of sociologists had put together about 57 visualizations for the 1900 Paris World Expo. World Expos, specifically at that time, was where different countries came and bragged about themselves, basically. And so, Du Bois had like a month. Him and his team had a month to turn around putting together these visualizations. And what we do is this challenge, as we do this, to celebrate his work. A lot of people did not know about it. When you think about these visualizations at the time that they were put together, they were hand drawn. There was no computer aided tools. And so we found, and I'll, definitely introduce more of our team members as I present. But yeah, we thought it was very important to celebrate his work. And also me personally, and I know the other team members share the same sentiment, we like to develop these type of community efforts to help us, hone our own skills or just to learn more about different topics. So this photo or slide here is what we did for this year's challenge. Each year, we've been doing it for 4 years now. Each year, Anthony curates a particular group of visualizations for the community to recreate. And we found so many different things that have come out of this creativity. So, in 1900, it did begin with Du Bois and Thomas J. Calloway. So Thomas J. Calloway, he was lobbying for an exhibit that was, which had a theme of Black America to be a part of the 1900 World Expo. He had to lobby fairly hard to get this space. And then once he did, he ran to his his colleague, ex-classmate, W.E.B. Du Bois, to put together this exhibit that would be shown in Paris. In addition to Du Bois, like I mentioned before, he had different students. He was a professor at the Atlanta University, which is now Clark University today. And so he had different students who helped him put together this work. He also had a group of people who maybe were not a part of the school, a part of his academic world, also do a lot of the data collection. Because when Du Bois put these together, he not only used census data, but he also used community data around Atlanta. I also just want to add to that these two folks were part of the overall exhibit that he put together. Not only did he have data visualizations there, he had photographs, he had literary works by Black authors. And he wanted to really show, that there was multifacets to Black Americans at that time, because this was 50 years after emancipation. So him being an academic, he definitely wanted to show that there was academic rigor in the community. There was people who was accomplishing things at that particular time. These are some photos from the expo. To the far right here is the exhibition space, which is fairly small relative to other spaces that were at the exhibit. But while it might be small, it was very impactful. It had visualizations, like I mentioned, it had different posters, literary work. He even had law books there. The law books was, a strategic reminder that in spite of all the hindrances, with Jim Crow and other penal codes, that there was still achievements that were happening in Black America. So everything there is very strategic in its placement, and we'll dig a little deeper just to show how these visualizations were also strategically designed for impact. Just want to, run through some of the historical context. It's always good to understand what motivates certain events. And so during this time, the late 1900s in America, there was definitely a lot of racial tension. We had Plessy versus Ferguson, which was a Supreme Court ruling that said that it was legal to have racial separation as long as both parties had equal resources. We can keep that for what it is. Also in 1897, we had DuBois' sociological work, which kind of set up his work that he did in Paris. So and when he did the study in Philadelphia, it was a more academic study. He was looking at different areas of Philadelphia because he was commissioned to figure out why there was a lot of poverty, a lot of crime in certain areas of Philadelphia that were populated predominantly by Black Americans. And so he did that study. He showed that it had to do with external factors like racial discrimination and also just coming off of slavery, that a lot of these things is what had, let's say, Black Americans maybe not at the same space social economically as white Americans at that time. Another event that took place around that time period was the Wilmington overthrow. It's something that a lot of people, even myself included, didn't know until really working with Anthony and the team doing this research, that it was Wilmington, North Carolina, and there was a government overthrow in that area, which is pretty reminiscent of something that took place fairly recently in America. Another thing, an overlying thing that was happening in America was that there was a peak in lynchings where people were being attacked, murdered, and all these things motivated DuBois to really do the work that he did, and also to just have this, what he felt was a very important exhibition to have in Paris. And he definitely wanted to counteract a term that was called social Darwinism. Social Darwinism was a theory at the time that people of African descent were inferior to people of European descent, and that the Black race would pretty much die off after slavery ended, just because there was, in their minds, Black Americans had no purpose, and so they would just die off. And so that's not true. And also, DuBois made it his life's work to really use academics to prove a lot of these theories to be false. So when we think about his exhibition, he wanted to let us know where Black Americans were at the time, who they were at that time in terms of their educational attainment and maybe their professions. And he wanted to definitely show the incremental changes that have taken place from that time period. And this is a big map of all of DuBois's visualizations. They were recreated by Anthony Starks. So I'm going to definitely be celebrating people today and plugging them. Anthony Starks, he is one of our team members, and he built a tool to recreate all of DuBois visualizations. So he has his own tool that he created, and he does, when he's not working with us, he's out talking about his work to other audiences as well. As you look at these visualizations, I know that we're all Tableau users, and so you can just see the impact or the effectiveness of these visualizations in terms of the use of color. Like, even though we're not focused in on any particular visualization right now, you can't help but look at the different colors, the bold colors. You may see some of the letterings, but this work again was hand drawn, and it was turned around from what records say. in about a month's time. And so I had an opportunity to actually see some of these at the Cupid Hewitt Museum in New York last year. And, you know, when you look at them, you can see the discolored paper, you can see some of the hand markings, you know, people drew them. So having, you know, looked at these for a while and to actually see some of them in person was a very amazing experience. So Anthony wanted to plug us. So yeah, how this challenge got started, like I said, it's been 4 years now. And, you know, Sekou Tyler, who's also in this space, and I'm sure you watch 10 Minute Tuesdays, he and I were DMing, and, you know, he came up with this idea, like, why don't we have a challenge? Kind of similar to like Makeover Mondays and Tidy Tuesdays and Workout Wednesdays. And I was like, sure, I know someone who has kind of done this work. And that's when I reached out to Anthony. And that's how all this got started. And again, you know, we think of what we're doing to not only celebrate DuBois, but also just to show that his work is timeless. Also to encourage other people who want to have a cause or community that you can use social media to be your megaphone, for example, and to bring communities together. And we've been able to use these different platforms to, you know, start this challenge. We didn't think it would be as big as it's gotten. It's touched, you know, places around the world. It's touched not only data visualization enthusiasts, it's touched historians, sociologists, or people who just want to learn about DuBois. So, you know, we're definitely very proud and humbled that, you know, people saw this idea that we had to celebrate DuBois and to just support it. So this year's challenge, you see the different curations, and you also see a lot of people who recreated these, and they shared it. In this case, they shared it on, I think this was Twitter. Yes, they shared it across Twitter. And these are the originals. Like I said, they have the discolored paper, and you can, if you look really close at the originals, you'll see like different tracings and people making little notes. So if you're interested in doing the challenge, Anthony keeps it all stored on GitHub. He has all the different iterations that we've done since 2021. And it's README files in there. You have data sets where you can recreate these. We also encourage people to bring their own data sets, and we've seen a lot of that work as well. We've seen people, and some of them may be shown later, but one person that sticks out is, his name is Ikuro Benandez. He has used the DuBois visualizations to tell the story of, you know, racial discrimination in Brazil, for example. And we have another person who's done it for Haiti. So definitely one of the goals was to say that, you know, these are timeless. You can get a lot of inspiration from these drawings. If you really begin to look at some of them, you can see the effects that he was trying to create. I will walk us through a few of them. The venues, so, you know, we have been on X for a while. That's when we kind of mainly started. We started strongest following there. LinkedIn has picked up this year. We start to see more people sharing on LinkedIn. DVS Slack. So this year we collaborated with Data Visualization Society. They helped promote the challenge, and we did see an uplift, a tick or lift in participants due to that collaboration. I am not on Mastodon, but talking with Anthony and Sekou, I don't know if Mastodon has a huge following yet, just overall, but we're also there. Yeah, so Anthony is like the host. He likes to be the host and curator. So every week, because it was 10 weeks, 10 visualizations, where he's very active in giving you the background of all the visualizations, even commenting on the use of color, the bold fonts. And, you know, so definitely follow him. And we also had, like I was just saying, the announcements each week. And we also had DVS. Right as soon as Anthony made his announcements, Data Visualization Society also echoed, or they did it as well. So there was a lot of different themes this year. In addition to the ones to the curation, the theme was red, black, and green, which is a Pan-African colors. You know, a lot of the red, black, and green is used in some of the visualizations. So that was something where Anthony wanted to curate them in a way that the visualizations were grouped by those particular colors. And then here you can see a few examples of people who have participated across Twitter. Even with my glasses, it's hard to see some of the names on this, but I know Frederick Ferry, he, you know, he's in the data fam, and he was definitely very active this year. A few other people here that you see on this screen as well. And then if you do a search on DuBois Challenge 2024, you'll see that there is a ton of posts on, you know, on X, Twitter, that you can just get inspiration and or just see how people have done this. Our biggest community on with the challenge has been our community has been fairly large. I'm very happy to report that Tableau has been picking up. I do feel like Chimdi, who's on the panel, he kind of sparked that movement, so to speak. Him and Rashid, who's also in the team. But yes, we've definitely seen more people, you know, as far as Tableau users participating. This is a few posts across LinkedIn. A few people that definitely stand out for me, as you see, Simisani Nadaba. She leads an Our Ladies group in Botswana, and so she has definitely been active this year. Kristen Bauman, I think she is a member of DBS, and so she definitely also was very active, as well as Eric Dreisen. In addition to doing the challenge, he also has like a blog where he talks about his experience, and he talks about trying to recreate them, which is something that is very awesome too, because not only are people just recreating these, they're actually sharing the experience that they had drawing these. And a lot of the feedback that we get is how complex designing or recreating these are. In terms, people are even doing calculations and math, trig rather. So these are what I like to call deceptively simple. And then as you dig deeper into them, you definitely can see the complexity. You can see the thought and the strategy that went into redesigning them. Madison is also another person who I got to engage with a little bit across DM as he was doing the challenge as well. And then, yes, if you're part of DBS Slack, you know that there's a Slack channel for the DuBois challenge, and there are a lot of people in there who was sharing and recreating. And you know, what we also liked is that people were just they were sharing their code, which is something as a community in the tech space, you know, a lot of code sharing happens. So it was really great to see the code sharing happening here. All right, another person, you know, who we really spotlighted or we thought was doing a lot of good work, his name is Kamal Moulton. He was very active in the DBS Slack. He's also on LinkedIn, and he's done a lot of work in addition to recreating the visualizations. He's done a lot of blog posts. I think he's even putting together a course to talk about these visualizations, but he was someone who was definitely very active in promoting the challenge and also just sharing his insights and his experiences. So you may want to look him up as well. And, you know, another thing that I was impressed by, you know, in terms of like recreations is that, you know, Chimdi started this trend. Like Chimdi, you know, I give him credit for being the first person to do an actual DuBois gallery, kind of, you know, an ode to the visualizations and the exhibit, you know. And now since Chimdi has done it, I've seen a lot of other people, you know, take him up on this challenge. And this one stands out to me. I just like the way, I like the clean look of it. It has that museum feel. This is Faith Rodick. She's on Tableau Public. And, you know, in addition to having this experience, it's interactive in the sense that you can click on each visualization and it will expand, and I'll show that a little bit later. And another thing that happened, like I mentioned earlier, was the follow-up blogs, people who were talking about their experiences, promoting the challenge even further. We've done that as well as a team. Like these three particular authors had very, good work, and they did a really great job at sharing their experience. And like I mentioned, Simisani, she's the she leads an Our Ladies group in Botswana, and she had a webinar, I think the end of May, where she walked through her code. And then, like I mentioned earlier, Kamal, he's expanded the work beyond just doing the visualizations. He's done a few editorials and just reflections on the work. And he's also applied a lot of modern data, like present day data, to recreate a lot of these visualizations. And we've seen a lot of variations. We've even hosted variations to the challenge. We one year we collaborated with the Veterans TUG, and we looked at the Tuskegee Airmen. And using the Tuskegee Airmen data, we had people do the Boise, what we call the Boisian style, where we use that data to kind of create visualizations around the Tuskegee Airmen. There's been a lot of other different variations that's taken place. A lot of promoters. We've done in the past, I think we may have done it this year too, data diversity with Tableau, where we did talk about W.E.B because of his contributions to DataViz. We think it's very important, well, not just in February, but throughout the whole year to celebrate it. Other people have, done deeper dives on looking at recreating these. I talked to Kevin Ford every now and then, and I know he was doing something this year as well. And like I mentioned, Simisani, she did a webinar, and Frederica, she is also a big promoter of the challenge as well. And that was Simisani's walkthrough of her creations that she did in R. Just from a tool perspective, a lot of people have brought a lot of tools to do the visualizations. Tableau, Power BI, you see Canva, and you see it, like you name it, it's up there. So. And just some metrics, because this is a data talk, so to speak. We have 295 members who are part of the DVS Slacks. They had about 169 postings, 48 participants, and there are 8 people who did every submission or all the 10 visualizations that were highlighted for 2024. And then this is just some LinkedIn stats, just showing, throughout we do a lot of this around February. And so you see spikes there. There's another spike in April. But again, just looking at the engagement, we're pretty happy with the engagement that we saw this year, especially with LinkedIn. It's a platform that's been increasing just because we're trying to diversify from just having everything across Twitter. So that is, again, I want to give Anthony credit for putting together this recap. Definitely follow him. And I have a few other things I would like to just walk us through real quick, and hopefully it won't take too much time. But I'm going to just share a few more things, and then I definitely would like us to look at a few of the Tableau visualizations on public. So I definitely wanted to make sure that you got to see the other members of the team. Yes, it started out with me and Sekou, and Anthony is the one who's recreated all the tools, but Shimdi also and Rashid play a huge part in the challenge. They are definitely the promoters for Tableau. Chimney, like I said, has recreated, like he's created a gallery. You can get a snapshot of that in a bit. And Rashid, also I'm gonna know, he's also someone who's been very active on our team. All right, so I'm gonna just do a few more slides here, and then I want to run over to public. All right, so I did want to show Chimney's gallery. He did it back in 2022. And so, you know, I was really impressed when he told me he wanted to do it. And not only did he tell me, he actually executed it. And so I thought it's really cool. You can check that out in the Tableau public gallery. Another thing I wanted to highlight again, Dennis Kao, he's like, if you need a map, you know, Dennis is your person. So one of the things I wanted to highlight, you know, in terms of us being data visualization professionals, just a lot of the work that goes into recreating some of these. And Dennis shared like his, I think it was his joy. I think he likes doing the calculations, but he just wanted to really emphasize like how he had to calculate, you know, just like, again, this is a slanted bar chart, but, you know, he just wanted to really share, you know, some of the work. And that is a testament to, you know, think about it again with DuBois and his team. This was hand-drawn. There was no computer-aided tools at that time. And they really wanted to show their acumen. Like they wanted to show their intellect when they were doing these. It just wasn't about, you know, in bold colored posters, also the work that went into it. And then I mentioned earlier, Ikiro Menendez. He's used a lot of the visualizations to show the situation that is happening in Brazil. All right, so I call it the Frankenstein chart. I don't know if there's a more technical name for it, but again, I just want to go into like the strategy of some of these visualizations, like in terms of technique. Like this was showing the Black population in city areas versus rural. And he being DuBois and his team wanted to kind of show you this exaggeration in terms of comparison. Like these first two bars is looking at, this one is looking at the Black population in like medium-sized cities. And also as the cities increase, you know, you see like this relatively smaller population compared to Black Americans who are out in rural areas. And so looking at these population differences, you know, you have this chart on the left, which is, you know, it's kind of straightforward, but it can still be a little dry. But if you want to see the visual impact of the difference in population, you can see it on the right, where you have this spiral, which is saying that this population is so large in comparison to the other segments that I have to spiral it around. And so I just, you know, I see that as a message, you know, the impactfulness of that, trying to convey this message of the population difference. Like you have a lot of Black Americans at that time that are still in rural areas versus slowly coming into the city where there's more opportunities as the industrialization is happening and things of that nature. You know, when I was putting together this talk, you know, this is actually Anthony's favorite visualization, but when I was putting this together, I realized that this visualization is almost like a dashboard. So it's kind of like the first, I don't know if it's the first, but it's an earlier dashboard before all the, you know, computer-aided tools. Like this is showing income and spending of, you know, Black American families in Atlanta at the time. And, you know, just the way that it's designed and, you know, put together, it can almost look like a dashboard of sorts. And so that's, you know, just again, just saying, you know, time period and just having, you know, this type of thought process and kind of almost being ahead of his, you know, his time in terms of data and visualization. This was, all right, that was the last one here. So now I just want to run us through different visualizations that I saw. All right, so this is Tableau Public. And if you type in DuBois Challenge 2024, what I'm very happy to see here is that there's like 10,000 plus visits in Tableau Public. I never thought that we would see that much. And so we have about 39 authors. And so, you know, again, we see faiths. I wanted to just highlight faiths. Oops, the wrong button. All right. Okay. Oh, it's a different experience. But what you do when you click on these, you know, you get an expansion of the visualizations. And I did want to talk about, well, it's not the experience I had yesterday, but it's fine. Try it again. It's fine. I did want to just touch on some of the work here. So one of the things I like about the visualizations is, again, it's the impact. And so in this case, we're looking at enslaved versus free people. And the red, and this, you know, Chimdi has had to tour me on this, the interpretation on this a couple of times, but what it's showing is that you want to see like the percent of free people is this red at the top. And, you know, the black, actually, if it could go further down the page, it would be much larger in comparison. But this is trying to show just a small, trying to amplify, you know, the small percentage of free people versus enslaved people at the time. And then as the time period goes down and goes forward, you see that more and more people begin to be free, and then it just dips because of emancipation. So, just seeing that type of design and usage and color, as well as the font choices, you know, as you begin to study this, you can really see the impact of these visualizations. And what I liked about Faith's dashboard was that dashboard, that it was built like a gallery, and as you clicked on these, they kind of got larger. Another one that I liked, Raisa Hannes, she's also done a lot of work with the visualizations, and you know, she did a gallery last year for 2023, and this is another one. It's the kind of the flip of the red and black one. It's now vertical rather, and this one also gets a lot of people find this to be the most impactful because, again, it's showing free versus enslaved. And then as you go across, I think visually, people get the interpretation a little easier because you're going from left to right versus up to down, up, down. And so you see the differences, and then the drop off is dramatic. I also think that the use of color is intentional, you know, using a black and then using a green, when you think about happiness or freedom, stuff like that. Dennis, like I mentioned earlier, Dennis has done a few. He's participated in the challenge as well. He's a cartographer, and so he likes to always do a lot of maps. And I think the latest one he did, I think he was in San Diego, and that inspired it. But he was looking at the Black population in San Diego, and he just recreated these. So I also thought that was a good one to highlight. So as you go through the filter, you can definitely look at a lot of these different dashboards. And one of the things, you know, one of the reasons I wanted to do this talk again was to, encourage, inspire you that you had someone 100 years ago who had him and his team hand drew these visualizations. And there's a lot of technique that you can pick up from looking at these visualizations. In terms of like the messaging you want to get across, I feel like all of these visualizations are full of messaging. They're full of, trying to get a point across. If you think about it, he was at this exposition where, and these are poster size visualizations, he had to get people's attention. Think about being at Tableau conference where there's so many booths. You want to get a person's attention. You want to make sure they stop by. And so I think you can learn a lot of technique from looking at these. You can also learn a lot about, for those of us who do data storytelling, when we're trying to tell a story. And I shared with you the historical context of what inspired these visualizations. And so for him being Du Bois as an academic, he's going to this conference with his peers who already believe in social Darwinism, and he had to really rely on his academics or his intellect, his training, to kind of convey this message without necessarily being enraged or being discouraged, about the time period, which, it's a very heavy thing. So I think, there's a lot that we can still take from these, and that's why we as a team like to celebrate them, like to make sure that people know about them, and to also take them and get inspired to do something that you want to do. You've seen a lot of different people take the style and create another project for themselves. So with that, I will like to say thank you for listening to the presentation. I hope it was useful. I hope it inspires questions about you as you do your Tableau journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alan. Thank you so much for taking us through the whole journey. For me, it was really knowledgeable, as well as I didn't know actually how the impact has been, and it was actually hand-drawn visualization which came to life, and now like there are more than 10,000 visualizations out there on Tableau Public. So that was really good to know about it and the impact that you have created with the DuBois challenge. We have a couple of questions,
Okay.
and they're kind of interesting as well. So first one is that's from Annabelle. Here's a question that I wondered if the use of colors essentially are primary colors is voluntary to make it impactful, or is it due to the hand drawing materials? Maybe not many colors were available back then.
I never heard that before. That's a good question. I want to say that it could be a mixture of both. I do think that, using red, black, green, and also there's a palette. It wasn't shared in the presentation. Like there's also like pink and other colors, but maybe some of it was because of that, because of the usage of color and this hand drawing. I've thought about that, but I do think, like, for example, reds and blacks and greens were used for like that boldness and just to catch people's attention. Though.
Thank you. I think Annabelle just nodded, so I can go with that answer. Okay. There's one more interesting question again. That's from her. And did you think about creating a book or a drawing book? I think that by coloring it, you can really realize this reality of the graphs. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I didn't plug it. Yes, actually, Anthony did design a coloring book, and if you reach out to him, he can actually get you a copy. But yeah, it's he did create one, and there's also been some other work that we've been looking to we've been working on as a research project to incorporate in curriculums and stuff. But to answer the book question, yes, there's a coloring book out there.
Oh, that's nice. Annabelle got her questions answered, I guess. So now we'll move on to the third question as well. Did DuBois meet or talk with any proponents of social Darwinism?
Did he meet? Did he meet with people to talk about it?
I think it's more about the data, like how he came through that data. I think that's the question more about.
Like how he came to it, you mean? Well, I mean, I'm just thinking I know he used U.S. Census data, and he also did a lot of neighborhood data, like data collection, asking people about their professions, their families, their household size, and stuff like that. So it was a combination of the U.S. Census data plus neighborhood data that he went out to survey neighborhoods, which is a technique that sociology uses today, because there wasn't really sociology as we know today when they created those visualizations in that time period. And so he's the one who actually put or gets credit for putting quantitative data into the sociology field.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy, for asking that question. And thank you so much, Alan, for answering all of our questions and for taking us through this whole impactful journey of DuBois. A personal shout out to Chimdi. Like, his work is great and like it's impactful as always. Okay, so now we are going for the final stage of the show for today. We have Bo, and he's wearing his t-shirt, his own printed t-shirt. I do have got one as well. Thanks to him for giving that to me at Tableau conference. So let's introduce him. Yeah. Okay, so here we have Bo McCready. You can find him on Twitter at Bo Knows Data. Just search for it. You'll find him definitely. He's a quantitative business analyst manager who lives in Austin, Texas, and has been using Tableau since 2012. That's more than I didn't even knew about Tableau back then in 2012. And he received his PhD from the University of Wisconsin and worked in urban education before transitioning to tech. His Tableau journey, he is passionate about using data to find insights and telling stories through innovative and engaging visualizations. Please check out his Tableau public profile. It's great. I have, like, when I started, I have been seeing his visualization. Those are really great to get inspired from. He's also a Tableau Public ambassador, a certified professional, and a Tableau Public featured author as well. Now, fun fact about him, when Bo isn't making graphs, he likes concerts, soccer matches, and screen printing. Now, he has got a ton of different variations of t-shirts that I think he will tell us where we can get that from. But those are really insane if you're a visualization geek. Okay. And today he's going to talk us through the presentation titled Grief, Graphs, and Visualizing Personal Data. So thank you so much, Bo, for coming us and sharing your knowledge with us. Please take the stage.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Prasan, for the great intro, and happy to be here with this group today. It's my first opportunity to speak to this TUG, and yeah, very excited to be joining y'all. So just bear with me for a second as I get everything set up here. All right, cool. Quick thumbs up. We can see my slides. Everything looks good. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. All right, cool. So here's my quick little intro slide. Yeah, my name's Bo. I'm a Tableau Public ambassador, among other things. And yeah, I always like to, now when I can, have presentations, choose an example photo where I can then wear the same thing in the photo so we all understand I'm the right guy, we're all in the right place. This is what we expect. I'm even wearing the matching pants here too. So so we're all good. I know that in these, yes, that is a bar chart tattoo. Yeah, I've got some data tattoos here as well. Yeah, so I'll kind of start off by saying, you know, please feel free to jump in whenever. I know these digital presentations, there's maybe not as much engagement as we can get face to face, but I'm keeping an eye on the chat here. I'll try to keep an eye on the Q&A. So yeah, if there's anything you want to ask about, talk more about, learn more about, you know, please feel free to do that. Part of the reason I say that is that this is not a thoroughly rehearsed presentation. I tend to like to have a little looser presentation style. It started when I managed to successfully defend my dissertation without really practicing what I was going to say ahead of time. I thought, hey, if that'll work, we can just take that forward and keep giving it a try. So some folks might have seen me give a similar presentation before. I did this at Tableau conference as well. If you happen to be there, the biggest difference this time is that when I was at Tableau conference, I had terrible laryngitis. This is what my voice actually sounds like. So if that was the first time you met me, you're thinking this is pretty different. that's why. So feeling much better today, and excited to be with y'all. So quick little career background here with a very existential title. Who am I and why am I here? I'm not sure I'm going to be able to answer that for us, but I can at least talk a little bit about how my career brought me here. So I would say that I had a little bit of an unconventional background for somebody who is doing data science in the tech world and a lot of analytics work as well. But I think as I meet more and more people in this community over the years, there is no conventional story. People have all kinds of backgrounds before they get into this work, and I think that's one of the things that's so cool about this community. So I studied first history and then public policy, and then finally educational leadership at the University of Wisconsin. So I was kind of on track to be an academic, be an education professor, researcher, whatever that was going to look like. But decided partway through, I would rather not be a professor who was teaching something that I hadn't actually done in the real world outside of a university. So, I finished my coursework, and I got an analyst job with the local school district. And in my first week on the job, I was sent to an in-person workshop led by Edward Tufte, who is obviously kind of one of the biggest names in this field historically. And I switched the font in my presentation just this morning to Gil Sans MT in a nod to that experience, because he likes to print everything in that. And yeah, so that was kind of the start of my data viz journey. And it's hard to imagine a lot more or a lot better ways to jump right in than, hey, here you are in person being trained by one of kind of the legends of the field. So, I fell in love pretty quickly with that line of work and thought, hey, maybe I'm not going to be an academic someday. Maybe I want to dive into this a little bit more and see where it takes me. So I spent about 8 years working in central office jobs in urban school districts, first in the upper Midwest and then down here in Texas, and then made a transition kind of right before the outbreak of the pandemic into the tech world, to focus kind of more completely on data science, analytics work, and a lot of Tableau development along with that. So as was mentioned, I've been using Tableau since 2012. I think I probably started on version 6 or 7. And yeah, have been lucky enough to be a Tableau public ambassador for a few years now. Had I think 10 now Viz of the Day projects from Tableau Public. And one thing that people often recognize me for is the Reddit hits. For a while, it was kind of my thing that I had Tableau projects on Reddit that tended to do pretty well. So just wanted to quickly highlight kind of some of my favorite projects I've done, both over the years and a couple that I've done in the past few months that were fun. The project in the top left here was one of the very first things I did after I got involved with kind of the public Tableau community. And since then I've had some lucky breaks and been able to make a few things that resonated with people, and kind of successfully got Tableau projects to the #1 post on the front page of Reddit probably 4 or 5 times, which is pretty cool. Being able to put things done entirely or almost entirely in Tableau, in the hands of literally millions of people. So as was mentioned as well, I've started getting into screen printing over the last year and a half. So kind of the manual old school process of silk screening shirts and posters and things like that. And because I love working in Tableau, because I love working with data and figuring out how to tell visual stories, have been trying to figure out ways to blend the data work with the screen printing work. So my wife and I collectively started our little printing company that we run out of our garage, that we call Pie Chart Press, in a nod to the graph type that everyone loves to hate, but that I like to lean into whenever possible. So yeah, and we have an Ohio State fan in the room. That's all right. Yeah. So when I do a talk like this in person, I like to have giveaways. Maybe if you've seen me talk before, maybe you've gotten a T-shirt or a poster or something like that. And I do want to acknowledge that the rest of the presentation today is about something a little bit heavy, a little bit challenging. And when I do this one in person, we get to have the energy boost of, and you get a free T-shirt for asking a question. And we don't have that today, but we'll do our best. So before I dive into the project itself that I wanted to focus on today, I did a little self-visualization this morning because it occurred to me I was personally curious about this, and I wanted to spin something up so that I could reflect on it a little bit as part of this presentation. So woke up and wrote a Python script, as I'm sure we all did today, to kind of collect my own Tableau project creation history. And yeah, and so when I started sharing work more broadly with the community, definitely got super into it and was kind of experimenting and iterating as much as possible. Each dot is a month, by the way. I wasn't doing 40 Tableau projects in a day, but yeah, part of why I wanted to visualize this too was to give myself a check on what it felt like last year. And this was a good reminder to myself that I've tended to be pretty active in the community, do a lot of work and communication with people. And then there was a 6-month period last year where I did one project, and that's the project that I'm gonna zoom in on a little bit more today. So I do have a link here to this project if you want to kind of follow along or click through and see some of the things I'll be talking about. But I'm gonna move past this slide, pretty quickly, because what I want to talk about today is only kind of about the dashboard that's produced in the end. The more important part of this, the story that the dashboard tells, and the story that I want to reflect a little bit more today. And that's the story of my dad and my relationship with my dad. So as you can see here, we lost my dad last year, and that was kind of the start of my roughly 6-month break from doing much in the Tableau world. And before I dive into this a little bit more, I want to acknowledge, the ethics of working with highly personal data like this. They're not always straightforward. But when his journey was going in a certain direction, and when the treatment stopped working, I knew there'd be a lot of ways that I would need to process things moving forward. And so last probably March, I sat down with my parents on their back porch and talked about the goal of doing a project like this someday, and what I wanted to do, what I wanted to represent, make sure that he was okay and supportive, and everybody felt good about it. So I'm glad I had the chance to do that, and I'll also thank you in advance for your patience during this presentation. Every time I talk about this, it gets a little bit easier, but I'm not sure that it's ever going to be completely easy. Every time I revisit this material, for the first time, get a little bit choked up. It's a little challenging. So thanks for bearing with me here. So before I dive into the dashboard itself, I was actually reading through a book on grief this morning called Grief in the Expressive Arts that I thought kind of summed up what this project meant to me and what I think can mean to people. And so it's short enough. I will read it out loud. But we know that people who are experiencing grief often seek to symbolize a deeply emotional experience, share it with others, affirm life-sustaining bonds and meanings, and find orientation in a changed world. And this is a quote that really resonated with me because, as anyone knows who's experienced a deep personal loss or a big change like that, it is a different world afterward. And my dad lived nearby, was a huge part of my life, and it was a big change. So my dad was a painter for his career. He was an artist. He did oil paintings, and that's what he did. And creating art is kind of one of the most time-honored ways to process through the challenging things we experience in life. But I'm not much of a painter or a drawer. My guitar work is not great. I lost my singing voice years ago, but I know how to make graphs. And as we all know, Tableau is a great tool for business dashboards, great for running an analytics operation, but it's also just a really powerful storytelling tool. And so when we experience challenges, we often retreat into the familiar, the comfortable, to help us process through things. And for me, part of that was figuring out what I could do in Tableau to work through this. So what I did was read through 1,793 pages of medical records to try to draw a story out and figure out something that I could put together. So got a PDF from the hospital with a full record of everything that had happened during the journey we were all on together. I reviewed my text message logs and photos from my phone to help kind of give the story more color and construct that experience a little more completely, because of course it's not just about the time we spend in a hospital, it's the time we spend with our loved ones and what we do together. And so I then moved forward to build custom sets very, very manually. And so this is a screenshot of all the tabs with the data that I put together out of this PDF. Unfortunately, it was not in a format where it would be read, quickly or easily. Definitely had to, do a lot of typing and copying and pasting myself. But yeah, this is the the quick and dirty relational database that was an Excel file that ended up powering how the work moved forward. So diving into the project itself, I'm just going to zoom in on a few of the graphs I put together to help tell the story, and then leave a little time for reflections, questions, and answers as well at the end. So everything's kind of put together around this format, these lines, these dots over time. That are, this looks like 4 gray lines here, but it's really a series of a bunch of dots together. Each of those dots is a day, and each of those days is associated with data in what I put together, starting January 9th of 2020 and ending July 10th of 2023. So the first part here that I wanted to visualize was the different treatment patterns that we kind of experienced together over time. My dad had melanoma that metastasized into his brain, and so in January of 2020 they discovered 7 brain tumors, and that was the start of what we all worked through. So anyone who's had family members be on this journey, you know how the cycle feels, the consistent scans, the treatments, the infusions, the events and the things that happen along the way. And so taking these 4 types of treatment and bringing them all together on the same timeline, this for me, it's a simple graph. It's lines, it's dots, it's a few different colors. There's nothing technically sophisticated here, but I put this together and I could see the contours of our lives during that time. I could see the huge amount of activity when treatment first started and everything that was done to try to knock things out as effectively as possible. And then the second half of 2021, when things were, more or less in remission, not active, was a quiet, good time for the family. We got to travel together. He got to go to some of his favorite places. And then things kind of, eventually ended up picking up again. And so I feel like too, Tableau conference over the last few years, there's always coincidentally, unfortunately, been a big medical event going on at the time. So I feel like those almost deserve their own dots, sneaking out of sessions to go find out what was going on and talk to doctors and, keep things moving forward. But I wanted to focus, not just on medical treatments and the challenging pieces along the way, but also, the bittersweet emotions that come along with the time we spent together. And so I might have taken a longer break from making visualizations if it weren't for last year's Iron Viz competition. When the theme was announced as love, I thought, well, this is what love means to me. This is the love that I've experienced, and as challenging as it is, that was the thing that motivated me to start creating again. So the first thing I wanted to highlight here, I made a data set out of the texts that my dad and I sent back and forth. And so, there's I find these graphs as kind of, one of the perfect examples of what bittersweet means to me. There's a lot of love and happiness here, but, also some really challenging things to notice here. And, I don't think we normally visualize our text messages between people in a way like this, but, able to see very clearly, the graph on the left here, the orange dots are the ones I was sending, the gray dots were the ones I was, the orange dots were the ones I was receiving, the gray dots were the ones I was sending back. And so, you see tons and tons of interaction. You see in the middle of 2022 here, there's a brief period where things were going really badly that sparked another brain surgery, and he wasn't really communicative at that time. So you see the orange dots drop off, and then, sadly, towards the end, as his, cognitive capacities declined, I saw him pretty much every day, went to visit, but, he wasn't able to type or communicate in that way anymore. And then just moving down to the bottom of the project, another thing that meant a lot to me as I was building personal data sets, digging into, that type of journey. We also wanted to highlight some visual elements that meant something to us. So this project is adorned with marigolds, which are very closely associated with the Dia de Muertos traditions. We live down here in Central Texas. We go to San Antonio every year for a long weekend to celebrate Dia de Muertos, and kind of have a chance to reflect on those people who are no longer with us, who've meant a lot to us. So for me, this project was not just a combination of highly personal data, but things that would reflect our lives that were built around that. So to increase the personal elements a little bit more too, I used graphic elements in this dashboard, the marigolds and poppies that were actually hand drawn by my wife. This is her modeling the shirts, some of the shirts that we've been able to produce together. But it meant a lot to me to bring those elements in as well, not just personal data and opening up a highly personal story, but also having it something that was created by members of our family, as much as possible as well. So I know that's a very, very quick overview of, a pretty dense dash, a lot of stuff in it. But, something I wanted to highlight briefly was just a few of the design choices that I made for this project, and ones that I would carry forward for similar work. So if you do have a chance to dig in, you'll notice there's simple chart types here. They're going to be accessible not just to analytics experts, but to other people as well. The story, for me, when you're doing something like this, the story should come out relatively quickly and relatively easily. Bold colors, are important, not just for accessibility, but for contrast, for interest. As Alan said, in his great presentation, colors are a great way to bring attention to work like this and make people curious. And just avoid the muddiness that we can get sometimes with, if you have a quick, clear message that you want to be easily accessible to people, bold colors with high contrast makes a big difference. As I just talked about a little bit, adding some personal artistic elements. I didn't want to use generic features or generic graphics, when we had personal things that we could bring in. And finally, my last call out is that this is a project. It was very important to me that it was not dependent on interactivity, but that it would work as a graphic, that it would work as a standalone. I've seen some of the most amazing stuff produced in Tableau, incredible tutorials, like absolutely mind-blowing stuff, and what people are able to do with actions and creative filtering and all of it is absolutely incredible. A theme in my work is that I want it to work as an image. I want it to work so that, for somebody who's not a Tableau public user, for somebody who's not going to either go to a public account or open up Tableau desktop to explore a little bit deeper, I want to make something that's going to stand on its own, particularly for something like this that I hope would be meaningful and engaging for someone who's not just looking how to build a better graph. And so along with that, wanted to share just a few of the comments I got on this project, both in send and direct messages when I shared it on Reddit. I always like to share projects there as a way to kind of reach people beyond the the DataFam, Twitter, and LinkedIn communities, which are wonderful. But it's great to bring other people in. And there are so many Tableau users, so many people who are interested in data, or so many people who just think this stuff is cool out there, that if we stay within those communities, we'll never reach. So I won't read these out loud, but I'm ultimately glad that this project was able to mean something to other people who had either been on similar journeys in the past or were on those journeys at the moment. And another reflection on visualizing highly personal data is that when you share in this way, when you open yourself up in this way, it's viewed as an invitation to others to begin sharing with you as well. So it's happened to me via messages, via in-person communication. People want to talk and share the experience. And so if you are thinking, hey, I've dealt with something really personal, and maybe Tableau is an outlet for me to explore it as well, be prepared. We each choose how we want to engage with it. For me, it's been really wonderful, but you have to be ready for people to want to talk about it. And if you're not ready, maybe this isn't a great direction to go in. So a few concluding thoughts, and then I'll leave us a little time to wrap up. The first thing I'd encourage everyone to do, I'm sure we have all heard variations on this many times, but try to remember the humans behind the numbers. I spent a long time working in education, so it comes very naturally in that field. It probably comes fairly naturally to people working in healthcare, but those of us working in really any field, across the industries, across roles, there are human actions behind the data sets that we're working with, and there's human stories behind the patterns that are emerging for us. And I think it makes us not just better analysts, but more ethical analysts, and hopefully better people when we're able to reflect on that and be aware of it. Also, just encourage people to handle sensitive data with care. There are obvious implications to that, but also, that includes care for yourself. I've never worked on a project that took me longer to get through, required more breaks, and was more challenging. And, as you saw, it was not because of the technical sophistication, but it's because when we deal with challenging topics, and many of us may do that as part of our day jobs as well, you got to take care of yourself to be able to bring your best to it. Another important call out, do something because you want to, not for the validation. The Tableau community has a lot of opportunities for recognition. The Iron Viz competition, Viz of the Day, Vizzies, Information is Beautiful awards. There's a lot of like pseudo competitive things like this that are cool and wonderful ways to recognize people and their contributions. But I think ultimately, if you're going to do something like this, it's got to be for you. And not for what other people are going to say about it. And finally, have fun when you can. And if you're not having fun, it's okay to stop. I've done a lot of Tableau creation in the past, done a lot of things that were really fun to work on, and sometimes you need a break. And I had one of those extended breaks myself. We all need that sometimes, and particularly as we're thinking about creative work, things we're doing outside of our workday. It's okay to stop and take care of yourself when you need to take that break. You're still valuable. You're still a member of whatever communities you want to be a part of. But yeah, gotta take care of yourself too. So in closing, stay in touch. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. It's one of my favorite old pictures of my dad and I. Just as a little way to close it out. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at BoKnowsData. Our screen printing journey is available at Pie Chart Press on Instagram. That's a link to the project that I talked through a little bit today as well. And that's my content.
Thank you so much, Bo, for taking us through this person's story through a visualization. Personally, I would say I'm really not great with diving in my own emotions because it's too hard. I don't think I can do that. I'm not ready yet. But this was totally a great visualization, and how you talked about the whole story as well as how you have incorporated all those small, tiny bits of information out there, and for all the great tips. So thank you so much for sharing your story here and all the knowledge with
Yeah.
us.
Thank you.
I'll come over to some of the questions that we have. So first is it's more about the data gathering part. So John wants to know about like the text data that was available to you. Like, did you gather it manually, or like there was a process behind it? How did you do that?
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the app off the top of my head right now, but there is an app or a utility that will extract your texts from a certain thread into a CSV. So thankfully, I was able to just use that and have the data ready to go pretty quickly.
That's good. One more question, kind of interesting. Jenna is curious about your bar chart tattoos. Like, can you
Yeah.
share a bit
Yeah,
about
I
that?
can try to zoom in a little bit and share. So this is the bar chart tattoo in question, and so there's 4 bars here. So these represent me and my wife and my 2 daughters. The background color of each of the bars is our favorite colors as of the day that the tattoo was created, because as you know, with little kids it can change every day. And then the height of the bars relative to each other is each of our heights, in inches, the day that the tattoo was done. So represents the love of data, but also just a way to represent our family.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. That's interesting to know. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing all this knowledge with us, and I'll hand over to Chimdi for closing our session today.
Awesome. Thank you, Prasan. Another great session with a lot of great speakers. So be sure to look out for the video coming up soon. And as far as keeping up to date with what we got going on, we encourage you to check out the W.E.B page here, and you can also scan the QR code. So you should be able to see past events, future events, RSVP, and basically everything you need to know about the speakers and the events. And as far as, people who've got awesome stuff going on, whether it's like a project, an idea, a thought process, anything that you wanted to share that, aligns with what we've got going on for this TUG, you can definitely use this QR code to apply to present. We will love to have you and whatever it is that you got for the community. And so with that, we bid you farewell. And so I guess, remind me, are we having an event in August or, sorry?
No, in August we are like in summer break, but
Already?
we are here next month. In July we are here.
Oh, yeah, for June. Awesome. Sorry, I'm thinking too much in the future. So we'll see you next month for our next event. And as the time goes on, please look out for those details on both Twitter, LinkedIn. If you're subscribed to the W.E.B site, then you should also be getting emails about those events. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
See you.